Biden's going to do nothing till the end of his term. Nothing sharp or decisive is my guess, because he hasn't done anything of the sort during his 4 years of government. And I would be very surprised. They could technically agree on one thing or another. I'm not on the inside, obviously, but they're not really going to do anything that is blocking Israel's moves right now. This is running out the clock, and then it's going to be a new administration. And by the way, probably Netanyahu is going to continue on his strategy, which is expanding war for a while. But I think what Trump and the Trump administration is going to find is that their old gambits of divide and conquer the Arab world is not going to work anymore. There are just new players around there, the BRICS, which is really a big change of geopolitics. There is Russia and China with a much larger role in the region, despite everything, despite the U.S. Pretensions. There is the groundswell of complete disgust and disdain for Israel throughout the region after more than a year of genocidal actions. So I think, I don't know when, maybe already, but sooner rather than later, the Trump administration is going to realize that their old ideas, if they don't already, aren't going to work, and they're going to listen to the Arabs. That's my feeling. They're going to listen to the Arab League. They're going to listen to the fact that there is, and I don't think most Americans know about it because you won't read about it in the New York Times, that's for sure. There is an Arab peace initiative on the table, one that makes perfect sense. It says 2 states on the legal borders of June 4, 1967, the borders set by the International Court of Justice, 2 states living in peace side by side. That's the Arab offer. Everything is done in the mainstream media to hide the fact that the Arabs are making that offer, but they said it again today. But they also said there is no alternative to having a state of Palestine. And that is a new fact of life for the Trump administration. It was the whole gambit of Trump and then of Biden that Saudi Arabia wouldn't stand up for that other Arab countries could be peeled off through this inducement or that inducement. That game is over.
Jeffrey Sachs' analysis highlights a critical turning point in U.S. foreign policy and Middle Eastern geopolitics. To unpack his remarks, we need to examine the following key elements: the Biden administration's passive approach, Netanyahu's expansionist strategy, the role of emerging powers, BRICS, Russia, and China, the groundswell of regional discontent, the Arab Peace Initiative and its implications for Trump's return. Throughout his term, President Biden has largely maintained the status quo in foreign policy. On Israel-Palestine, this has meant unwavering support for Israel, even amid increasing international condemnation of its actions in Gaza. Sachs argues that this inertia will define the remainder of Biden's presidency. This do-nothing strategy reflects the administration's unwillingness to confront Israel, even as its actions deepen regional instability. By running out the clock, Biden essentially leaves the conflict for the next administration to address, a gamble that risks exacerbating tensions further. Sachs points out that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is likely to continue his policy of expanding the war. For Netanyahu, this strategy serves both domestic and geopolitical purposes. Domestically, it consolidates his support base amid mounting challenges, including corruption scandals and public unrest. Geopolitically, it aims to reshape the region by weakening adversaries like Hezbollah and Iran, while entrenching Israeli control over Palestinian territories. But this expansionist approach is increasingly isolating Israel. Sachs notes the groundswell of complete disgust and disdain for Israel across the Arab world, a sentiment fueled by what many perceive as genocidal policies in Gaza. Sachs highlights a fundamental shift in the global balance of power. The traditional dominance of the U.S. in the Middle East is being challenged by new players, particularly the BRICS bloc: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Russia and China, in particular, are expanding their influence in the region. Despite Western sanctions, Russia remains a key player in Syria and maintains strong ties with Iran. Meanwhile, China's Belt and Road Initiative has deepened its economic and diplomatic engagement with Arab states. These emerging powers offer alternatives to U.S. dominance, enabling Arab countries to pursue more independent policies. For example, Saudi Arabia's growing ties with China and its inclusion in BRICS signal a departure from its historically close alignment with Washington. The Arab world is experiencing a profound shift in public opinion. After decades of perceived betrayal by their own governments and indifference from the West, many Arabs are demanding justice for Palestine. Sachs emphasizes that this complete disgust and disdain for Israel is reshaping the region's political landscape. Governments can no longer ignore the will of their people without risking domestic instability. This grassroots pressure has already led to significant changes. For instance, Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states have tempered their normalization efforts with Israel, emphasizing the necessity of a Palestinian state. At the heart of Sachs' remarks is the Arab Peace Initiative, a proposal that has been on the table for over 2 decades. Originally introduced by Saudi Arabia in 2002, it calls for a 2-state solution based on the pre-1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. Despite its potential to resolve the conflict, the initiative has been largely ignored by Israel, and the U.S. Sachs points out that mainstream media in the West often fails to highlight this proposal, perpetuating the narrative that no viable solutions exist. Under Trump, the U.S. pursued a different strategy, the Abraham Accords, which sought to normalize relations between Israel and Arab states without addressing the Palestinian issue. Sachs argues that this divide-and-conquer approach is no longer viable. The Arab world is uniting around the necessity of a Palestinian state, and the Trump administration will have to contend with this new reality. If Donald Trump adopts a similar approach in his second term, he may find it increasingly difficult to navigate the region's changed dynamics. The old playbook of sidelining the Palestinians and isolating Iran is unlikely to succeed in a landscape shaped by BRICS, regional unity, and widespread public discontent. Instead, Trump may be forced to engage with the Arab League and the broader international community to address the root causes of the conflict. This could include revisiting the Arab Peace Initiative, a move that would mark a significant departure from his first-term policies. Jeffrey Sachs' analysis underscores the urgency of a new approach to Middle Eastern diplomacy. The Biden administration's passivity, Netanyahu's expansionism, and the rise of alternative powers like BRICS are reshaping the region in ways that the next U.S. administration cannot afford to ignore. The Arab Peace Initiative offers a framework for lasting peace, but it requires the U.S. and Israel to abandon outdated strategies and engage with the realities of a changing world. Whether Trump, or any future leader, is willing to do so remains an open question. According to Jeffrey Sachs, whatever is going to happen, Biden's going to do nothing till the end of his term. Nothing sharp or decisive, is my guess, because he hasn't done anything of the sort during his 4 years in government. And I would be very surprised if they could technically agree on one thing or another. I'm not on the inside, obviously, but they're not really going to do anything that blocks Israel's moves right now. This is running out the clock. Then it's going to be a new administration. By the way, Netanyahu is probably going to continue his strategy of expanding the war for a while. But I think what Trump and his administration are going to find is that their old gambits of divide and conquer in the Arab world are not going to work anymore. There are new players, BRICS, Russia, and China, with much larger roles in the region despite U.S. pretensions. There's a groundswell of complete disgust and disdain for Israel throughout the region after more than a year of genocidal actions. I think sooner rather than later, the Trump administration is going to realize that their old ideas aren't going to work, and they'll need to listen to the Arab League and the Arab Peace Initiative. Thanks for watching.